Beat the bloat and constipation. That's the topic for today. So what will you learn? First, we will look at the many ways of bloating that you didn't even know about. We will also look what the proper stool should look like and which test can you do today at home to find out which type you are. Then we are going to look at how to reset the digestion and how to get rid of the constipation. And at the end, we will look at the practical part. So we will uncover the problematic food and plan the meal around this. So let's dive in. So what is actually normal bloating versus abnormal bloating? So chances are that if you overeat on beans and pulses and, for example, broccoli, that you will get bloated and you will create gas. And this is normal. So each person farts every single day 4 to 20 times. So when people say, I never fart, that's not true. They're just not aware of it. And this is actually a sign of healthy digestion because we eat fiber. Some of it is soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, and some of it is fiber that is fermentable. So fermentation is the process when the bacteria eat the fiber and they create gas. So that is normal that time to time we get bloating. What is abnormal is when you get bloated every single day. And if you say, no matter what I eat, I get bloated. And we have different types of bloating. So you might have the bloating when you are looking like pregnant. So it's mostly the upper part that gets swollen. And there might be the problem of the stomach, digestive enzymes, diaphragm, stress, muscles. So this is the first part. Then you can even try, you can touch your stomach. Is it hard as a rock? Men usually have this hard stomach, or is it floated like a balloon that you can actually put your fingers into it and it's painful on either side, mostly on the left bottom side? Do you also suffer with nausea? Like when you eat larger meal, do you actually feel physically sick? Or do you suffer with acid reflux and heartburn? You are belching, so the gas is basically escaping from the stomach, bringing the acid up, and you can't control it. So it's a constant belching, or you feel the acid and you try to swallow it. So this might be a problem of a certain food, like for example, when you eat coffee, when you drink coffee, when you drink alcohol, or when you eat oranges, because they can relax the sphincters, that's basically the muscles on either end of the stomach. And when they get relaxed, they open, and then the acid that is in the stomach comes up. When you are farting, is it noisy farts? Or is it really smelly, stinky farts like a rotten egg full of sulfur? So if it's noisy farts and if it's 4 to 20 times per day, that is probably caused again by the bacteria that were eating the carbohydrates. So the noisy farts are usually from sugar, carbohydrates. And the smelly farts are usually from protein or fat that was undigested, which means you don't have enough of the digestive enzymes that are actually chopping the protein and the fat into small parts and digest it. And then even bacteria will not digest the protein and it just has this rotten smell. Also, ask yourself, are you bloated immediately after the meal, or is it mostly like in the afternoon or at night? Are you full? Are you feeling full after eating even just a small portion of food? Or can you eat large portions? Do you suffer with constipation, diarrhea? Do you have cramps in your stomach or like a stomach pain after eating? Do you alternate between constipation and diarrhea? And maybe even do you suffer with iron deficiency? Because this might be actually a sign of a bacterial overgrowth, because bacteria, they love iron and they're feeding on every iron that they find because it helps them to grow. And then the chances are that you don't have any iron left for you. So let's look what the stool should look like. So every single day you should go to the toilet. Do you eat every day? You need to eliminate every day. Preferably if you eat 3 times per day, you should go 3 times per day to the toilet, because every time you are putting something into the tube, it should push out the old stuff that you don't need anymore. So at least once a day. If you don't go to the toilet every single day, if you, for example, go once every 3 days or 5 days, you are basically collecting all the kilos of the food with bacteria in your intestine. It can be 4 kilos, 5 kilos of the remaining debris from dead cells, from the food that were not processed, that was not needed. The stool is hanging somewhere in you that can cause you pain. So even if you go to the toilet every single day, you can still be full of stool. And how do you know? If your stool looks like this rabbit pellets, it is a severe constipation. And this can be caused either you don't drink enough liquid. Remember, you need to drink 40 milliliters of water for every kilo of your body weight. So if you have 60 kilos, it's 2.4. If you have 80 kilos, it's 3.2 liters of water. So do you drink 2 big bottles of water every single day? Also, fiber. Do you eat at least 25 grams of fiber for female and 36 grams of fiber for men? Many of my clients eat only 14 grams of fiber. So we need to look at the food that is high in soluble and insoluble fiber, not the fermentable fiber, and increase it so that you can get rid of the constipation. Type 2, it's still mild constipation because it's basically the rabbit pellets sticking together, and this might be very difficult to pass, and then your muscles are afraid of the pain, and the anal sphincters are refusing to let go. So what is optimal? Optimal shape is type 3 and type 4. So it's basically like sausage-like shape that blops into the water, and you don't need to use any toilet paper, and preferably it's halfway sinking, halfway floating, which means you had enough fiber, and it has this optimal brown color, which means that you had enough bile that turns it into brown. If your stool looks anything like the type 5, 6, or 7, you might have a serious problem. You might not have digestive enzymes, you might not have enough lipase, it is very pale, so you might not even have bile that is produced in the liver, and you might have problems with the gallbladder. And in that case, it would be good to talk to your doctor or visit a gastroenterologist. So what can be causing the problem? What can be causing the constipation? So it can be even the pelvic floor dysfunction. So after giving birth, for example, so which can be age 30, 30 plus, you might notice that it's more difficult to hold the urine and even, for example, farts, because the pelvic floor muscles are deeply connected with the anal sphincter. So what test you can do today is that you drink half a liter of a lukewarm water, you will wait for 10-20 minutes, and then you jump on a trampoline, or you go for a run, or you are just dancing. If you feel that is difficult for you to actually hold the urine, and you feel like leakage or incontinence is on a regular basis, then your pelvic floor muscles are not strong enough. And that would be good to start with the yoga or with Pilates and do the daily exercises of the pelvic floor muscles. Because even when we are eliminating the stool, we are squeezing the pelvic floor muscles and also the anal sphincter. So that is also a muscle. If you have a slow transit time and you saw that, okay, I have this rabbit pellets, you can do the test. For how long is the food that you were eating hanging in your digestive tract? So remember, we have around 7 meters of the intestine. First 5 meters is a small intestine, and that's where we absorb all the macronutrients. So fat, protein, carbohydrates, fiber. Some of it we absorb if it's broken down into small single molecules like amino acids, fatty acids, and molecules of sugar. And then this gets into the blood through the cells. Yeah? If we don't break it down, it is going into the large intestine where the bacteria is going to eat it, and they will produce gas, but they're also going to produce energy. So they help us. A good bacteria, they produce, for example, 70% of the serotonin, which is the happy hormone. So we want to also take care of them. We have 30 trillion microbiota cells, bacteria, and we have, so this is actually 10 times more than cells in our body. So we want to have a good colonies. If you want to do the test and see for how long the food is actually hanging in your intestine, you can buy a can of corn, like 200 grams of organic corn, and you can buy 2 raw beetroots. You will grate it and then mix the beetroot and the corn, or you can keep it separate if you don't like one of them, and you eat it for lunch. And then preferable the next day in the morning when you go to the toilet after your breakfast or 10 o'clock, you should see it in your stool. The stool should be red. There should be all that fiber, this indigestible fiber floating up, and you should see there the corn, because we cannot digest the corn. So you will see it there. Do you see it there after 12 hours? For example, in the evening, that's also not optimal, because it means you wouldn't have enough time to digest it. So maybe you had diarrhea. Is it after 48 hours? Fantastic. That's good timing. That's what we want, because our small intestine needs around 12 to 48 hours to absorb all the vitamins, minerals, and the macronutrients for our needs. The rest is then given to the bacteria in the large intestine. So if you don't go to the toilet every single day, if you are constipated, the remaining food, the fiber, the corn, is hanging in the large intestine, which is the last part of your intestine, in the gut, before it gets eliminated. And all the toxins are holding there. It's creating even more and more gas. So do you go to the toilet every 2, 3, 4, or 5 days? That's not optimal. And in this presentation, we are going to look at what you can do to remove the constipation. The other problems can be that, for example, you have low thyroid hormone. So this is called hypothyroidism. Chances are you are even taking the hormonal supplements of thyroid hormones. In that case, you have slow metabolism. Maybe you also have low estrogen levels, because we know that estrogen is anabolic hormone, is helping us to build everything. When we have enough estrogen, we have mucus in our nose, in our eyes, we have a beautiful hair, beautiful skin, enough collagen. And if the estrogen is going low, the body needs to break down. So it means catabolic state. We are basically falling apart, and then even the digestion is not functioning properly. I already mentioned the 25 grams of fiber for female, and you need to track how much of that you eat, and it's easily manageable with vegetable. And stress, of course, because when you are under stress, you are running away from the tiger. So that's activated sympathetic nervous system. All that energy goes into your brain, into your arms, into your legs. There is no time to digest the food and eliminate the food. Those muscles are not working, the digestion is not working. And this is why it's important to know the techniques of how you can de-stress the body and get yourself into parasympathetic nervous system, which means rest and digest, so you can in an optimal way eliminate all the dead cells and remaining food. So let's look at one of the causes of bloating, and this is called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. In short, it's called SIBO. And SIBO is in a small intestine where we should absolutely not have any bacteria, because as I told you, bacteria live only in the large intestine. So this is the large intestine, and that's where the bacteria are living and creating the gas. And everything is what is in between is a small intestine where only we should be absorbing everything. How did the bacteria could get there? It's either from the stomach or from the large intestine. And how do you know if you have SIBO? It's you say, I get bloated after absolutely everything. So everything bloats me, no matter what I eat. It would be apple, melon, nuts, zucchini, eggs, whatever gets you bloated. You are bloated every single day, and you might be even passing gas. So what can be causing it? As we said, stomach, which you can see here, needs to produce hydrochloric acid. We need this acid because from the tube, as we start eating something, the food can have pathogens, so bacteria, viruses, yeasts, and our stomach will, with the acid, is going to kill it so that it cannot actually enter into our intestine. So if you, for example, suffer with the heartburn because your sphincters were open, maybe you went to the doctor or you went to the pharmacy and you bought antacids. So this is, for example, the Renis, the tablet Renis, or Gaviscon. Or maybe you went to your doctor and you got a prescription for PPIs, which is proton pump inhibitors. It blocks something. What does it block? It blocks acid formation. So it means that your stomach is not going to produce hydrochloric acid, and therefore it's not even going to break down the food. Because remember, your stomach is something like a blender. It makes a smoothie of all the food thanks to the hydrochloric acid and the digestive enzymes. If you block the creation of the hydrochloric acid and your stomach becomes neutral, all the bacteria are invited into your small intestine and they will build the colonies in there. So when you eat the food, immediately after that you get bloated, because instead of you eating the food, bacteria was faster than you, especially if you are under stress. So when you are stressed, you are not digesting anything. So you are leaving all that party for them. And chances are you are suffering now even with the nutritional deficiency. If the hydrochloric acid in the stomach is not working, you don't have intrinsic factor, you cannot activate the B12. If you don't have B12, the elimination of the toxins from your liver is not working properly in the process of a methylation. You might be low in B12, B6, iron, and you basically feel like having no energy. You are tired all the time. What do? You compensate it with coffee or something sweet, which is even worse because the coffee is going to increase the cortisol, the stress hormone. Therefore, you will be under stress. You are not going to digest anything. Coffee is also going to irritate the stomach. It's going to open the sphincters, and you are going to have even more heartburn and acid. So you take again the medication, and it goes like this all over again. Even if you are not taking the medication, you can still be low in stomach acids, and this is caused by age and autoimmune disease. Because again, autoimmune disease is that your body is under stress. When you are under stress, you are not digesting, and you are basically in a vicious cycle. The same, stress can be causing insufficient digestive enzymes. We said the digestive enzymes are basically the scissors that are going to chop the food so that you can absorb it in the small intestine. If all these steps are not functioning, you cannot digest in a proper way. And the next thing, of course, antibiotics. Antibiotics kill everything. And then if you are under stress and after antibiotics and the bacteria and viruses got inside and are growing the colonies, then even probiotics are not going to help you because they are not going to repopulate in the right place. You want probiotics to repopulate in your large intestine, the last part, not the small intestine. And you can also have candida overgrowth. So if you, for example, have like rashes on your body, you have rosacea, you have like any skin issues, you get bloated all the time, every time after any meal. If you have white plaque on your tongue, chances are that the candida yeast is overgrowing in your small intestine. But if this is the case, you would definitely need to visit your doctor or talk to any other professional. So just to summarize this, sugar and bacteria means fermentation. Fermentation is a creation of the gas. The gas expands, enlarges the small intestine, and is causing bloating. What can be the next problem is carbohydrate malabsorption. So, you know that some people, when they eat lactose product, like they would drink milk, they get really bloated. The same can happen with fruit. You will have dry figs, dry fruit, you will have the super healthy vegan bar, or maybe you will eat melon and you get bloated and it causes diarrhea. This is because you don't have the transporters. It's like taxis that actually need to remove it from your intestine, or again, the enzymes. So lactose is a sugar and fructose is a sugar as well. And it's 2 molecules. So it's a disaccharide. So it needs enzyme lactase and enzyme fructase to break it down into single molecules and remove it from the bloodstream. If this does not happen, then the bacteria will eat it, for example, even in the large intestine, and they will produce hydrogen and methane. So it's gases that human body, human cells cannot produce. It's only bacteria. And how do you know that this is happening to you? I had this problem many years ago, like 16 years ago, and I suffered with it for 16 years before I discovered that I have fructose intolerance. So I wanted to eat healthier. I was always eating healthily. So I would start the day, for example, having porridge with a little bit of honey and mango, because mango is high in beta carotene and it has this healthy sugar. So I wasn't eating any other sugar than the healthy honey and healthy mango. And breakfast was quite okay, but after lunch, even if I, for example, had only chicken and green beans, which is very neutral food, I got bloated. So I was thinking, okay, maybe chicken and green beans is not good for me. I didn't know that it actually takes 6 to 12 hours to the food from the breakfast to get into the large intestine and cause the bloating. So I got bloated every afternoon or in the evening, and then I was constantly farting. It was like a toxic load, and I was very unhappy with this because it has had an impact on my social life. I was, for example, going to German classes at 7 o'clock in the evening, and I was worried that I would be bloated and I would have to hold the gas in me because you cannot pass it there. So I was traumatized by this. And so what I did was that before going to any German classes, I did not eat all day to avoid the situation. So it had massive impact on my mental, emotional, and social well-being. But then during the studies, I discovered that you can do actually a hydrogen and methane breath test. So I went to the gastroenterologist and he made me drink a fructose, just like mixed fructose into the water. And then every 15 minutes, he wanted me to blow into the device. So now what I do, I have these devices at home and my clients can actually do the test at home because that is connected to the mobile phone. So what you do is that you eat some food that you think is creating the gas, and then you bloat into it. And actually the app is going to show you how much hydrogen you have created. And first, I just didn't understand how all of this is possible. How can a machine from exhale after 20, 30 minutes, after 1 hour or 4 hours, for how long you do it, every 15 minutes, how can that actually say that I'm bloated? So the thing is that, as I said, only bacteria can create the hydrogen, and the hydrogen then penetrates, gets into the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream it goes to the lungs and we exhale it. So that's why you can see it. And that's a really smart device. So what can be causing this carbohydrate malabsorption? So it's prebiotics. So prebiotic is not probiotic. Probiotic is actually the bacteria. You buy this pill in the pharmacy, and prebiotic is a food. It's a fermentable food that our human body cannot absorb, but bacteria love it and it helps them to grow. So it's, for example, artichoke and other food that we will discuss later on. Also, indigestible sugar alcohols. So what is sugar alcohol? That's basically made in the lab, is artificial sugars that we again don't absorb. So all the Coke Zero, they say there are no calories. There are no calories because there are these artificial sugar alcohols like sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol that are causing diarrhea, bloating, and farting. Also, insufficient digestive enzymes. Again, when you are under stress and you don't have the enzymes to chop, you cannot digest the food. And sometimes it's excessive fiber. So when you try to eat overly healthy and you eat, for example, lots of kale that has lots of fiber in it, and again, we cannot digest it, this can cause bloating. So in the next section, we are going to go into details and look which food you should actually avoid.